Hi y'all, welcome back to pearlsandjesus.com. So this is the third and final video in my Valentine's Day dating series of having a godly dating relationship and involving the Lord in your dating relationships. I know that I'm late. I had originally planned to post this on February 14th on Valentine's Day, since this was a Valentine's Day series, but I intentionally waited a day late because I think it's very important in every relationship to have intimate, romantic, sentimental love every day of the year, not just on Valentine's Day. And so I thought the day after would be a good day to emphasize that, but also because today, February 15th, is a very special day to me. It's very important to my heart, and it's very sentimental to me. And I am actually going to be doing a whole video talking about why this day is so special to me. And I'm hoping to have that up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I have a lot coming up with school, but I want to have that up soon so you guys can understand why today is so special to me. But I have a lot I want to say in this video, so let's go ahead and get started. This video is focusing on purity in your dating relationship and why we shouldn't have sex before marriage. Okay, so before I tell you how to involve purity and protecting your heart and your purity inside your dating relationship, I want to let you know why that we're supposed to, and why the Lord says that waiting till marriage is what's best for our heart and what's best for us. Okay, so first of all, I just want to let you know that sex is a good thing. And I know that it's been distorted through our society and our culture to seem like sex in and of itself is sinful and bad, but that is totally not true. The Lord says that sex is one of the good gifts that He blessed us with, but He blessed it to be a gift inside of marriage. And it's not just a gift as a physical thing, but it's so much more than that. And the Lord says in Genesis 2:4 that when men and women come together in this way, that the two become one flesh. And when we give ourselves to someone in this intimate way, we give up a part of our souls. And that's why there is no such thing as casual sex. No matter what people say, no matter what they try to convince others and themselves of, every time that you have sex with someone, or every time that you're intimate with someone in any type of sexual way, you are giving a part of your soul to that person. You are giving them a part of your heart, and you are leaving behind a part of yourself with them. Because sex was meant to be intimate. It was meant to be a mingling of souls. And that's why when you walk away from something like that, you don't leave unaffected or unharmed. It's something that definitely affects you. Could be both physically and emotionally, but most definitely emotionally. So I'm going to read you a little excerpt from this book, The Heart of Singleness. I've been reading it the last few weeks, and it's so good. Okay, so this book says, if a couple is not married, they have not made a truly lifelong commitment to each other in public for everyone to see, to know about, and to help them hold on to. Both are reserving the right to walk away. Outside of marriage, at least one partner is saying to the other, I love you today, but I may not love you tomorrow. I'm here today, but I can't guarantee that I will be in a decade. My love is not truly unconditional. And when I read this, my heart was just filled with so many emotions, and I was just overflowing with tears because this is so powerful. And then right below that it says, God says sex is to be enjoyed only between two people who have committed themselves to each other, who have given themselves to one another, and who are in a permanent, exclusive relationship. And I think that it's so easy in any relationship, whether you're male or female, if you're 17, 20, 25, 30, it doesn't really matter. It's so easy to tell yourself, well, I love him. He's the one I'm going to marry. Oh, well, we're going to get engaged. We talk about marriage. Oh, well, he says he loves me, or she says she loves me. She's the girl I'm going to marry. It doesn't matter if that's what you see or what you think, because it's not a permanent, exclusive relationship. So there was a chance of heartbreak and so much vulnerability in that. And I've been there. I know how easy it is to tell yourself, well, I'm in love with him. Oh, this is what I think he's the one. Or maybe you know that that's the one. Maybe someday that is the person that you're going to marry. But if it is, why is it worth doing it now? Why can't you wait for marriage and get to enjoy those things for the rest of your life with that person? And I'm just going to read something from the Song of Solomon 8:4. It says, "Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires." And I love the Song of Solomon. It is one of my favorite books of the Bible. I've read so many devotions, different translations and things on this specific book, and every translation, every version, everything always explains it, that she is telling us as women, don't do these things before you're inside this marriage. Don't do these until you've made this promise before the Lord, because that time when you're in a marriage, when you're in this relationship, when you've made the promise before God, that's when this is sacred. That's when this is beautiful. That's when this is pure, and that's what this is supposed to be. So don't do it before you're in this marriage. She's warning us, don't do that, because when we do that, we're taking away the value of it. And the Lord wants us to enjoy it, but he wants us to enjoy it in a pure way inside of marriage. Okay, so now that I've explained to you why it's important to do that, and why it's important to protect this, I want to tell you some ways that I think help preserve your purity inside of your dating relationship. So the first thing that I think is so important is to set boundaries. It is so important to do this. And I know in so many of my relationships before, and my mentality in life, until the last couple of years in my relationship with the Lord, I thought, like, well, as long as I'm not having sex, then I've still preserved my purity, because my purity has always been so important to me. But my mentality had been warped over time by the world, through just the way that society portrays these things. And it's so important to know that the Lord wants you to protect all parts of your purity, whether you're actually having sex or whether you're just thinking lustful thoughts, whether you think, oh, maybe this far is too far. The Lord wants you to save all of that for marriage, because every intimate touch in that way sets you farther apart from the Lord, and it separates you from the Lord. And that's something that all of it is supposed to be kept inside the sacred place of marriage. And when we set these boundaries, it could be specific and different for every couple, but it could be things like, well, we shouldn't be alone in a room together. We shouldn't turn the lights off when we're watching a movie. We should always keep our feet on the floor. We shouldn't lay down together. We should always keep our hands off of each other and on top of the blankets. We shouldn't use a blanket. We shouldn't spend the night with each other. I don't know what is specific to you or your relationship, but I think these are so important, because if you have those boundaries, then you know when you're breaking them, and then you don't break them. Well, obviously things can happen, but what I mean is you don't go too far and then say, oh, we probably shouldn't have even set up the possibility of this happening, because if you have those boundaries, you can be aware of them before they even happen. And those were just examples, but I think those things can be so powerful and can be so impactful on relationships, and staying pure inside of your dating relationship. So the second thing is prayer. Prayer is so important in all parts of this, in any type of dating relationship. But I think you can pray for specific things. In this way, you can pray for strength. You can pray for willpower. And the Lord says that he will give us what we ask of him, if it is in his will and in his way. And if you're asking to be closer to the Lord, if you're asking for personal strength to overcome this sin, the Lord is not going to deny you of that. Pray for godly desires, that you would have a desire for purity, and that you would have a desire to follow the Lord's will in your relationship. And setting these boundaries helps you keep these things, keep these goals, and keep these things out of temptation, because temptations are going to come up. You're going to mess up. Well, you may not mess up, but if you do, it's okay, and that's why the Lord gives us grace. But it's so important to set these boundaries, to pray, and to be adamant with each other, and to keep each other accountable. This third thing is something I find so important. ladies, if you are in a relationship with someone who doesn't love the Lord, it's so hard to lead on your own. Like, it's so hard to do. And every dating relationship I've ever had, I think I've had to be the leader in my purity. And that's such a hard thing to do as women. And even if they are respecting what you want because you say it, it's important that they're doing it because they believe it too. So men, it is your job to lead in the relationship. As godly men, as leaders for the Lord, it is your job to lead the woman as her husband, but that starts in dating. And I know that this is something that is usually even more of a struggle for men, but it's important that the man is the one leading towards purity and striving for purity, because yes, as women we can be great leaders, but we're not called to be leaders. We are called to be submissive to our husbands, and in the same way, it's hard to be a leader because we weren't meant to do that in a dating relationship or in marriage. So it starts in your dating relationship. Prayer is so important, but ladies, I'm telling you as a warning because I've been there. It's so important to be in a relationship with someone who loves the Lord and leads you closer to the Lord, because this is really hard to overcome on your own. And the same thing for men. Make sure that you are chasing after a woman and pursuing a woman that loves the Lord, because this is hard to do if you don't have someone that is your partner and your helper, supporting you and pushing for purity and pushing to grow closer to the Lord. So it's important for both men and women to strive for purity, but men especially to lead their girlfriend towards purity and towards what leads them towards the Lord. And just like some other things, like this could go with boundaries, but being in group settings, don't allow yourself to be alone a lot. That obviously makes it really hard to do. Even making out can sometimes lead to so much more. So it's so important that you set those boundaries, that you pray, that you are keeping each other accountable. And that's so important. And so I'm just going to be honest and open with you guys and telling you, like, this is new for me. As I'm telling you this, I've never been in a dating relationship where we sat down and set boundaries, where we sat down and said, hey, this is what the Lord wants me to do. This is what I think we should do. I don't like it when we do this. This is something that's hard for me to overcome. I think we shouldn't do this anymore. I've never had a relationship like that. And I pray that the Lord gives that to me, and that the next relationship that I have, the next man the Lord would lead into my life would be a godly man that would help me in this way. And that I could be bold in saying the same thing. Like, I think we need to set these boundaries. I think we need to be very strict on these rules so that you can guard my heart, so that I can guard yours, and that we can grow closer to the Lord through His love and not farther apart because of sin. And yeah, that's just me being honest. I know this is really kind of a hard video for me to film because I've been super vulnerable with you guys, but I want you to know that, like, it's okay. And this is the part where I tell you I've messed up a lot. And some people don't understand my view of sex and why I think that it's so valuable and why it's so important to me to save for marriage. But it's okay. I've been laughed at because of my view, and that's okay. Ladies, that's not something you have to be ashamed of. That's something you can be proud of. But I tell you, if you have gone too far, if you have regrets in your past that I do, things that you've messed up on, or maybe you went too far and you didn't set those boundaries, or maybe you did and you crossed them, men as well, the Lord shows such grace. And just because you've messed up once, just because you've messed up a million times, doesn't mean you're too far gone for the Lord. He saves you, He gives you grace, and He gives you countless second chances. And I know from personal experience that once you've crossed that line, once you've made that mistake, it's a burden that bears on you. It makes you feel so unworthy. But the Lord shows so much grace for us, and He loves us, and this is why He makes us white as snow when we ask Him into our hearts. This is the same for your purity. Maybe you've given this up. Maybe you've went too far. Maybe you regret what you did, or maybe you're still in a relationship where you're doing this right now. And I know the burden that you feel of feeling unworthy, because I felt that way too, but the Lord shows grace, but you have to ask him for it. And the moment that you ask the Lord for grace, he cleans you completely white as snow, and you are pure again. You are worthy, you are loved, because you are a daughter or a son of the King. And I think it's so sweet that he makes us new again. He takes the dirty mess that we've made of ourselves and he makes us clean no matter what we've done. And I think that is such a beautiful love story that he writes for us. And with that said, I just want to read one more thing in the Song of Solomon. It is from chapter 4, verse 10. And this is what the king is saying about his bride. He says, "You have stolen my heart, my sister, my bride. You have stolen my heart. With one glance of your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace, how delightful is your love, my sister, my bride. How much more pleasing is your love than wine, and the fragrance of your perfume more than spice. Your lips are like sweetness as the honeycomb, my bride. Milk and honey are under your tongue. The fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon." And I read this. I know that this translation doesn't say it specifically, but this king is speaking to his bride, but this story is meant to represent Christ's love for the church. He is the groom and we are the bride. And this is what he's telling us. He says, "You have stolen my heart." We have stolen the heart of Jesus. And he says, like, "You have stolen my heart at one look at your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace. How delightful is your love, my bride." And I think that is so beautiful that we are the brides of Christ, that he loves us. He calls us beautiful and loved and his at one look at us. He just fell in love with us. And I think that is so touching and beautiful, and I'm so thankful that the Lord has shown me grace and that he has redeemed me and given me these desires to love him and serve him. I know this was a very long video, so thank you for watching if you made it all the way through. But I just want to say that I love you. Happy Valentine's Day. The Lord is so wonderful and so grateful, and I'm so thankful for the love that he's given me, and never stop praying for the Lord's love and grace over your lives, over your heart, over your purity. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye!